Our next conversation is about lasting legacies and Indian diaspora's philanthropy. And we have two great folks who are going to lead us in a conversation about this. Shweta Totapally is here. She is the Regional Director for Asia Pacific for Dalberg. Please come on up, Shweta. And she's joined on stage by Alex Counts, who's Executive Director of the India Philanthropy Alliance. And he is the author of 4 books, including one of my favorite titles of any book, Changing the World Without Losing Your Mind. Please welcome Shweta and Alex.
Can you hear me? No? Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay, well, maybe I'll just do this. You can hear me now though, right? I'm going to adjust and then be right there. Give me a second. Still working? Still good? Yes. All right. Okay, hi. I hope you are all well and still somewhat awake. I can tell that there's some nap time going on right now. But a quick introduction to myself. I was born in India. My identity then, squarely Indian. I moved to the States when I was 3 years old. I was raised there. I packed okra rice for my lunch and was picked on in those moments. Definitely an immigrant. I went to college there, I worked there in those moments, mostly an Indian American. And then at some point I quit my finance job, I moved back to India, and my identity then, my eyes of my parents, straight up crazy. And then I moved back to California, I married the Indian American I met in India, wrote about the Indiaspora in 2017 with Sanjeev and Mar and many others at Indiaspora with Alex's support. That was the first time I'd ever heard of the term Indian diaspora. That had a nice ring to it. It was really nice and I liked it. But then my husband and I decided that we missed India. We left America and straight back to Bombay. We had 3 children there, no immediate plans of moving back. So this morning I asked ChatGPT what my children's identity is. I asked if they were Indian diaspora. ChatGPT told me no. So now they have no identity, and I am left squarely confused, but very happy with my life choices and trying to convince my parents to move back to India and bring it back full circle. I got at least one chuckle out of that. So I'll take it, MR, thank you. I worked really hard on that. I so appreciate it. And now I want to put all of you to work. So this is a moment for you all to pull out those phones and to pay attention not just to Alex and me, but also to the QR code. And we want to ask you a question, which is, what do you think characterizes the best philanthropy? I'll give you a minute to take the time with the QR code, set yourselves up. I hear we've got a little bit more time than we'd originally planned for, and we'll come back to the results in a few minutes after you get to hear Alex and I chat with you for a little while. Let's give it a pause while I see phones up in the air scanning QR codes. Okay, I see some phones still. You can answer the question as we speak. So, what I want to start with is the role of philanthropy in transforming the world. And what we've seen over certainly the last 100 years is the incredibly powerful impact that philanthropy has had. So if you think of some of the most incredible successes that I've at least seen in my lifetime, polio being eradicated, that was in large part funded by Gates and Rotary International. We have the first ever world's malaria vaccine. That was enabled by a private philanthropy coming together with private companies to create the vaccine and make it possible. I think about the IITs in India, and those were founded with the generous support of the Ford Foundation many, many decades ago. The Tatas helped form IISc, and even Ashoka. That was founded with a lot of support from the Indian diaspora. Many of you know Pratham, know it very, very well. Pratham's Asar survey was also founded by the Indian diaspora with the help of funding from many of you over here. And that had a big impact in shifting the focus on education in India from the idea of schooling to shifting it to learning. And now Pratham has become a global model and a global benchmark. Both UNESCO and the World Bank have adopted it internationally, and it's inspired several other countries to adopt Asar-like models in their own geographies. But philanthropic capital is not just transforming what's happening all around the world and what's happening within India. It's also helping India take the best of what's happening in our own country to the rest of the world. A really terrific and current example of this is what's happening in DPI. So you think of institutions like Co-Develop and the Center for Digital Public Infrastructure. These organizations have been founded with the explicit purpose of taking everything that we've learned on our Aadhaar journey, on our digital public infrastructure journey, to help other countries all over the world learn what they can do and do differently. And so I would say the Indian diaspora has been critical to enabling all of the success over these years. And the numbers that you see up here, they confirm this. If you look at the slide above, you'll see the contributions by Indian American households in 2018, how much money has gone from US charities to Indian charities under FCRA, and the massive amount of remittances that have made their way to India, sent by global diaspora to India in just 2023-24. And so I think when you think about that, what it shows is how generous the Indian diaspora really is. And I think one of the things that we have seen over the years in diaspora, IPA, is that it is in the Indian diaspora community's DNA to continuously improve, to keep getting better, to channel our positive energy, our community ties, to driving real and lasting change in the world. And I think these traits are going to serve us critically in this geopolitical moment. And what we're seeing is that we need philanthropy more than ever. What we need right now, we need vision. We need organizations to come in and fill really critical data gaps and help illuminate what is actually happening on the ground. We need philanthropy to help drive innovation alongside the private sector. And we need philanthropy to help strengthen and hold accountable our public and private institutions, especially in this moment. And what we see is that every philanthropic dollar, it's going to have to work harder, it's going to have to work faster, it's going to have to work better. I think the good news is that this need is coming alongside an incredible rise and an unprecedented transfer of wealth in this generation. We haven't talked about it yet at the conference, but in America alone, $85 trillion of wealth is going to be transferred in the next 20 years. 75 trillion of those dollars just within family to family. A disproportionate amount of that is going to happen within the Indian American community, given the disproportionate amount of wealth that we hold. And so when you combine the incredible need that we have, along with our incredible along with our incredible resources, what you see is not just an opportunity to serve in this moment, but an opportunity to lead. And I think I wanted you all to take that away as you think about what can all of us do, especially those of you who have children and your next generations that you're thinking about transitioning wealth to. What is the collective capacity and capability? And Alex is going to talk about how exactly we can channel our capabilities into strategic giving.
Thank you. Perhaps you've noticed that I'm not Indian. However, since before I could buy a beer legally, the important term there is legally, I have been fascinated by, obsessed by, and in love with India and the Indian subcontinent. And I'm happy to say that, and many of you are part of that, the Indian subcontinent and its people have loved me back. And it's really shaped who I've been as a human being. These are some pictures from my 20s, when I was spending time in the region. And I'm still in touch with most of the people in these photos 40 years later. These are people that shaped me as a human being. Now, I want to talk about philanthropy, but I want to start by asking a question. How many of you would like to be happier, healthier, and more successful? Anyone? Anyone? Okay. Those of you not raising your hands, I'm not sure what's going on there, but anyway. So maybe we can bring up the next slide. So this is an article written by Deepak Raj and Raj Gupta, two sponsors of this conference. And they were pointing out in an article published by Indiaspora that people who give more are on average happier, healthier, and more successful. There is actually research to back this up. And if you go to the article that they wrote, there are links to the studies. Now, given that the Indian subcontinent has given so much to me, I've been trying to give back, and let me give you two examples. Some years ago when I was running the American India Foundation, I saw a need to create a coalition or a network or a platform for the leaders of the top Indian charities. And so people thought it was a good idea, but it needed someone to jump forward and lead it, and that was when I decided to create the India Philanthropy Alliance 6 years ago, and it's still going strong with 21 members. And 2 years ago, knowing that these groups have much more capacity to execute than they have money, we created a national campaign called India Giving Day, which is trying to create a way to increase the amount of philanthropy going to India from the US, the quality of it or the impact of it, and lastly, the joy that people giving it feel. And so I'd be remiss of me not to say that without Deepak Raj, IPA would have never gotten off the ground, and without Sunil Wadhwani challenging us at a conference 6 years ago, India Giving Day probably would have never happened. So I would just say for those of you in the US, please join us and be part of the India Giving Day. It's coming up March 14th. You know, if every Indian American family gave $100 on March 14th or the days immediately before it, it would raise $120 million on the spot, doubling the revenue of all of the charities in the US that are part of India Giving Day. And if you're not in the US, create something like IPA or India Giving Day in your country, and we'll certainly help you and show you how to do that. Now I want to close by saying this, that we talk a lot about the Indian diaspora and how it is done so much in innovation, but there's another aspect of it, I think equally important, which is that the Indians and Indian diaspora are exceptionally good at mastering the skills in any given discipline. Think of spelling, think of medicine, think of hotel management. And philanthropy is a learned skill. You can get better at it by practicing and by studying. That's how you get better in almost any discipline. And so we have been thinking about this for a long time and think that when people start getting into philanthropy, they kind of go through 3 phases. So the first phase here is what we call local and community giving. And it's basically kind of a knee-jerk reaction. I see a need, I want to give some money. I want to contribute my time. And a lot of good is done in this kind of philanthropy. There are limitations to it. I don't have time to go into them. But it's a great place to start. But then people, they practice and they study and they tend to go to a second phase, which we call, you can bring up that slide, the next thing. And this is where people start getting a little more strategic around their philanthropy, a little more systematic. How do I solve this problem? And this is a very powerful place. It tends to, the people who do it, they want to be in control. They want to put a lot of, they want, you know, they maybe made a lot of money in business, and they did that by having a strict control over how their business was run. They also tend to focus a lot on efficiency, but sometimes I worry that they focus so much on efficiency rather than effectiveness, that they would rather fund something that didn't work, that was very efficient, than something that was working, but only moderately efficient. But then people kind of go to this third phase, which is where things, I think, get really exciting. And this is where people are going to where the need is greatest. They're focusing not just on projects, but on building institutions and changing ecosystems. And they're focused, most of all, as Ajay Piramal was saying, on impact, on the change that they're making in society. So we wrote a paper about this, and we'll show it to you, a slide in a second. But really, back to you, Shweta.
Gratitude, generosity, selfless, service, and empathy. There's a little impact green word over there, which I think is terrific.
Proximate.
What are you noticing?
Yeah. Proximate.
Yes. Giving with accountability. Yeah.
Thanks for playing ball with us, folks.
These are good terms. I did not see strategic yet, so hopefully we've added that to the repertoire of our audience members. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, okay, all right. So I think we can skip this. Yeah. Alex, do you want to touch on this?
Yeah, so this is the longer paper that we wrote about effective philanthropy practices that you all can check out. It goes into much more detail than I just did.
All right. So why are we here today? In addition to sharing our thoughts about the need for philanthropy, how philanthropy can evolve over time, we have actually brought a reprise of a study that we did with Indiaspora and IPA back in 2018, and we're doing a second phase of it. So in 2018, when we did this work, we found many things. One, we found that Indian Americans were prolific volunteers, volunteering 220 hours on average, but they were cautious donors, with a giving gap about $2 to $3 billion a year, giving primarily to traditional causes around education and health. Of course, very, very important, but there's a long list of other issues that need and deserve attention. And a lot of passion around climate change, access to technology, and other issues that are really beginning to crop up over time. In 2018, post-2018, especially during COVID, we saw the Indian American community really step up in multiple ways, from local and community giving, to outcome-focused giving, to strategic giving. And we saw, as we talked, and many people talked about it earlier over the course of the conversation today, the power of how communities, private sector, governments coming together to really navigate what was an incredibly difficult time during COVID. Where we are now, in 2025, is the question that we have for all of you. And so our biggest ask is, please download this QR code, take our survey. In fact, you can take the QR code right now and take the survey right in this moment. I believe we are soon going to go to a coffee break to fill this out. And we will be publishing the results shortly. And I think Sunil mentioned this, right? We need not just to understand what is the size and the scale of the giving of our community, but also to understand what are the types of activities and interventions that will help us give more, give faster, give better, which is a term that an organization in India that I really admire uses, Accelerate India Philanthropy. And so that's a big part of what this survey is trying to unpack. And our hope is that coming out of this, we can do much more work around how do we drive strategic philanthropic giving in a way that really meets philanthropists in the Indian diaspora exactly where they are as they strive to make their journey of giving over the course of their lifetime. Big thanks for having us. Thank you, Sanjeev. Thank you, Amar. And thanks to all of you here.
Thank you, Shweta and Alex. And maybe during the break, we'll make sure you see the QR codes again so you can participate. Thank you so much.